Hey there, everyone. Hope you're doing well. I wanted to put up a video. This is not a deck tech by any means because this is not competitive. This is not optimized. But I did want to put a video of just a deck I've mentioned in a previous video of a green commander deck that I think is very accessible for possibly new players of the format. I've played this just twice, and it was a lot of fun. I had a good time running it. It actually fired pretty well both times. I mean, it didn't win, but it was playing against some pretty optimized decks. But it still hung in there better than I'd expected it to. When you think about the purpose of this is really just to get creatures out on the field and start doing, usually damage through trample. Some people kind of turn up their nose at that gameplay focus of Magic. But I've always liked, creature summoning and bashing. And it's also an easy mechanic to pick up on. So anyway, this is just a deck that I've put together. A lot of the cards I had already. Some of the cards are pricier than I'd remembered. I think maybe they were cheaper once upon a time when I had them. And of course, one of them is a reserve list card that I got and showed in a different video that it just fits well in here. So I want to go through the deck and I'll show you the parts of it. If you have suggestions for improvement, of course, feel free to make those. But there are a couple cards in here that I know they're not even like close to optimized, but it's just kind of a spot holder till I find something I like better. And I'll try to point those cards out to you. We'll start first with the Commander. This is our Legendary Bear, which the artwork's pretty cool on that. This lets us cast creature spells with power 4 or greater for 2 colorless less. So we do have some pretty beefy beasts in here. Another cool thing is when this attacks, you do get each creature you control with power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 and gains trample until the end of turn. Now, because that means that only triggers when GORECLAW here attacks. We do have some protection in here in the form of equipment and also some instants because we do have to risk our commander to get the most advantage of the deck. We have to swing the commander. So let's take a look first at lands. Nothing too crazy with lands. We have 33 lands. All of the lands are basic lands except for Reliquary Tower. I just put that in there because I remembered, oh yeah, Reliquary Tower. It's a bit of a pipe dream because card draw on this, usually you get it firing and you're able to cast most of the creatures in your hand pretty quickly. So the 2 games I had this deck, it wasn't like I had an abundance of cards in hand anyway. I was able to get those creatures out on the battlefield. We'll go ahead and scan the lands. They're all forests, but they are just, full arts are so cheap right now for lands. You might as well get them. They've been reprinted so many times. So I tried to vary it up a little bit. I think we got some Battle for Zendikar, all the different Zendikars. We got Hour of Devastation, maybe a couple other sets too. So there's our basic lands. We're running 33, well 32 plus a Reliquary Tower. We've got here the only Planeswalker that I run in the deck is Vivian, and one reason, kind of sillily enough, that I run her is because it fits the theme of the deck box for GORECLAW. That's the deck box I keep him in. So Vivian's actually pretty cool, though, because it lets us cast for Flash. And also she's got a nice uptick that you can, till next turn, up to 1 target creature gains Vigilance and Reach. So that Vigilance especially comes in handy. And you know what? I think there's actually not a lot of reach in here. Green is not known for its ability to reach. So that reach actually may come in a lot handier than I realize. And then the -2 ability, you can read that there. I use more of the -1 than -2, but the best thing is going to be this little static, you can cast creatures as though they had Flash. That's the only Planeswalker we have. Next we'll go to our instants. Most of the instants are in here for protection of our creatures. Heroic Intervention, I'm so glad they reprinted this in M21 because the price really became more affordable for me. So Heroic Intervention is a great spell. It gives Indestructible as well as Hexproof. This one's a recent card. I want to say this was in the Ikoria Commander decks, because Ikoria had the awesome cards where basically you can cast it for free if you control your commander. Otherwise, you can pay the normal cast cost. But this is great because it basically fogs, prevent all damage that would be dealt this turn to by creatures your opponents control. So you could, if you wanted to, politic this a little bit, and you could protect someone else. But I mean, mainly this would be to protect my stuff if somebody swings out at me. Then we go to Rapid Vigor. I learned about this card recently. It's a common. And I don't even know that set. Maybe it's a... Oh, forgive me, it may be a conspiracy set. I'm not really sure what that set sign is. But anyway, it is an instant to let you regenerate each creature you control. I do know that there are some board wipes that prevent regeneration, such as Wrath of God. But, I mean, not that many. This has actually saved me a couple games, saved my board state pretty well, and it's only 2 instant. I think we're going next into our sorceries for land fetch. We got Circuitous Route. That's a fun one to say. We got Cultivate. We've got the classics here. Sky Shroud Claim. Great card because, of course, the forests that you fetch come in untapped. Also, if we were running like a multicolored deck, it lets you get forest cards. They don't have to be basic forest. But, of course, this, we just get basic forest anyway. Kodama's Reach, of course. Now we're getting into some enchantments in the deck, and there are a few. We've got this, the mana cost on this is ridiculous, but if you can get it down, you do start to double your mana for lands that you tap, and also when you cast a creature spell, you get to draw a card. So this is expensive card draw, but it's, you know, if you can get it down and last a turn, you definitely get value for your mana, since you get to tap it for double. This is a M21. M21 had some good cards. Garruk's Uprising here gives your creatures trample. Also, it lets you draw cards if you've got creatures with power 4 or greater enter the battlefield. And that's going to be most of the creatures in this deck. So you also get a card draw if you play it and you have a creature on field, such as GORECLAW, that has power 4 or greater. But yeah, this is a great card for an uncommon. Frontier Siege is probably one of my favorite green cards, and I would have this in any deck that I could have it, because this is basically 4 mana every turn. You do get this, I mean, dragons I never play, but the Khans phase, I mean, that's 4 mana every turn. You get 2 mana at the beginning of each of your main phases. There are, of course, 2 main phases in each turn. I did check the ruling on that, because someone had said that it was only like, there's only 1 main phase. But the ruling on the card does say that you can use this on each of the main phases, and there are 2. There's 1 pre-combat and 1 post-combat. So Frontier Siege, great card. 1 turn, you get your mana cost back. So Asceticism, this one has, I think it's been reprinted in maybe the list. I'm not sure. It has been reprinted. It's a great card. It lets you regenerate target creatures. You don't have to tap it to do it, and of course you can't have your creature spells countered, which is nice. Oh wait, can't be the targets of spells or abilities your opponents control. Okay, well that's more than just countering. That's a removal and stuff like that. That's a good card. This is going to be one that probably won't stay long term, but Colossal Majesty, it's going to be hopefully guaranteed card draw at each upkeep. Exploration, hopefully we'll be able to draw some lands and get those on field, because, you know, these creatures, even with the 2 less from our commander, some of the summoning cost on these creatures is pretty high, as you'll see soon. So Exploration I thought would be a good add. Druid's Repository, just to give us some mana, right? That you can, you're going to be attacking anyway with creatures, so you might as well get to put some charge counters when you attack. Even if it dies, it's just on the attack, right? So if you have a creature that swings and dies, you still get the charge counter. It's almost like a treasure. You can use the charge counter to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and that'll probably be green, right? Regeneration, great card. I like the artwork, and this lets you enchant a creature for 2, and you can pay 1 force to regenerate it, which I'd probably put on commander, right? Moving on, this is a great one. You're going to be swinging, like I said, so if you can attack where you get, if you can basically attack with 7 creatures, you're going to get +5/+5 on all creatures. And that, when you see some of the power toughness on these, that's going to be significant damage. Moving on to equipments, we've got, of course, Lightning Greaves, because why wouldn't you? Shadow Spear, what a great card. I remember when this came out, I bought several copies, and it was still like $2. And I thought, man, that's Commander staple, because of really the ability to pay 1, and you get to remove hexproof and indestructible for all opponents until the end of the turn. That's crazy. This is such a good card. It can go in any deck because, of course, it's colorless artifact. But yeah, Shadow Spear. And it's definitely shot up in price. Darksteel Plate would be to probably protect our commander. It is indestructible, and it makes our equipped creature indestructible. And it's 5 to get it cast and equipped, but it's worth it. Commander Plate, recent one. I don't really think I'd be doing commander damage with GORECLAW, but this is really just for the protection against all colors but green. I thought that was good. I don't really think there's that many green removal spells that I have to worry about because GORECLAW, of course, doesn't have flying. But yeah, I mean, other removal spells, it would protect it, hopefully, from that. Swiftfoot Boots, good, right? I think we're getting into now artifacts that may help cheapen our casting cost. This is going to be kind of a group hug one that lets you give 1 mana, colorless mana less to cast a spell for all players. So this works for everyone, including you. But this is, like I said, a little group huggy. Maybe people won't be, if they're enjoying this effect, they won't hit you off the table right away. Dolmen Gate, we're going to be swinging our creatures, so boy, won't it be nice if we can make them basically indestructible to combat damage, right? So prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control. This is a great card. I do like it. 2-drop. Soul Ring, because, you know, Soul Ring. Rona's Monument's good, too. This is an uncommon from... tell you, these monuments are awesome. These monuments really should have been rare level. I'm glad they're not. I mean, I'm glad they're uncommon, but they're powerful. Look at this. Green creature spells. Cost 1 colorless less. And then also, when you cast a creature spell, target creature you control gets +2 and gains trample until end of turn. Great one. Horn of Greed, this is another one that's going to be a little bit group huggy, but you'll be dropping some lands, hopefully get you a card draw. I actually misunderstood this card for a long time. I thought it was whenever a land enters the battlefield. It's not. So unless you have something that lets you play multiple lands per turn, let's say I played this and I had a land per turn and I drew a card and I played a Cultivate, I wouldn't get any more card draw from that unless I had like the Druid or the well, we may see. I may have something in here later on, but unless I had a card that lets me play more than 1 land per turn, that wouldn't work. Here's the one from our other video. This is the reserve list Planar Gate to make it 2 less colorless to cast creature spells. Semblance Anvil. This spiked up, I want to say about a year ago, and I don't remember why, but it's a good card, and it has settled back down. The only drawback, really, casting cost I think is pretty low, but you do have to imprint a card, which means it removes it from your hand, so that's 1 less card you have to play from your hand. But basically, if you imprint a creature card, it makes it 2 less to cast creature cards. I could see if... I think there's about 21 artifacts, so I could see if I'm doing pretty well on my creature cost. I may actually attach this to an artifact as well, because I have so many artifacts, too. Emerald Medallion is going to be a staple for a mono green deck, right? Green spells cost 1 less to play. Howling Mine, this is going to be card draw for everyone, so a little group hug. Nyx Lotus, this, again, monocolor staple, I would say, because, you know, it's the mana it produces is dependent on your devotion to that color. So if only have 1 color, hopefully the devotion will be pretty high. Cloud Key was recently reprinted in the Time Spiral Remastered, and I'm glad it was, because this was another one that was really pricey. It's a great card. You can be a little flexible. This would be another one if I've got creatures getting out pretty cheap anyway. I could choose artifacts instead. Cloud Key's good. Font of Mythos, more card draw, but this one's almost not a good idea because of how much it helps the other players, and you also wouldn't get to use it on the turn that you play it. So Font of Mythos, it's in here, but it's one that actually sometimes if I draw it, I don't even play it. So this one might be one I need to... I mean, it's group hug, but it may be it may be a little bit further beyond group hug. This would be like maybe group second base or so. Cage Sun is great. The mana cost is expensive on it, but it's just for your stuff. So I do like that you don't have to worry about it affecting other opponents, right? Gives your creatures +1 of the chosen color, which would be green. and then also it lets you tap the land for an additional mana. Gilded Lotus, ramp. Thran Dynamo, ramp. Temple Bell, this will be another one that's kind of a group benefit. You can ring it. You can do a little bit of strategy, like you can ring it at a certain time point, maybe that it doesn't help a player that you don't want to help during his or her turn. You can delay the bell ring for later on. Now we're getting into creatures, which is kind of the meat of this deck. We've got here Terra Stomper. This is just a simple creature, but it's got trample, can't be countered, and that's an 8/8 for 6. So, I mean, it's basic, but it's easy to understand, and it swings in heavy. I mean, if this is swinging in, it's going to be swinging in with GORECLAW. It's going to be swinging in 9 trample. That's pretty good for 6 mana, and it can't be countered. Omnath, they reprinted this in the green collection, right, recently, and really came down into, I think I got it for like $6, which before that he was well into the 20-point price point. So Omnath, pick it up if you don't have it. He's a great card. You don't lose your unspent green mana, and then he gets pumped for the green mana that you have. Primordial Sage, ridiculous casting cost, but he does have 4/5, and then also it gets you card draw when you cast those creature spells. Artwork is pretty cool on that too. Moving on. Seedborn Muse, because I don't really have a good reason for Seedborn Muse other than it's Seedborn Muse, right? The 2/4 doesn't really trigger with GORECLAW or anything, but it would be nice to, if I can get my Planeswalker out there where I can play creatures at flash speed, that would be nice to be able to untap all my stuff in between turns. Rampaging Bronodon is such a good, fun card just to smash at people. It's got trample, and also it gets that trigger of when it attacks, it gets +1 for every land you control. This bad boy can go up to 14, 15, no problem, trample. So he's fun. I do like him. He was in the gift set of M19. Solar Harvest, steep cast cost, but it does have trample and also gets you card draw. And he's a 6/6, so. Vigor is one of my favorite green cards. This guy. Unfortunately, I don't have a way to make a copy of him. I don't believe in this deck. But if you can ever in another deck make a copy of Vigor, you're good to go, because he doesn't protect himself, but he protects everyone else. Took me forever. I used to think that this was his whole face here, like he had kind of a shell head, but no, there's his head right here. All right, and there he's got friends. See, even the flavor of the artwork. Who did this? Was that Jim? Yeah, Jim, you did a good job here. I like the flavor of the artwork here. He's protecting his buddies, right? He's, they're helping him by eating things that'll bug him, and he's going to help them. So, yeah, I do love Vigor. Great card. Aggressive Mammoth. This one really may not be necessary because we have GORECLAW, but if for some reason GORECLAW's not on the field, this would be kind of a plan B. He does give trample to other creatures, and he has trample himself. Stonehoof, 8 mana. Whew. But if you can drop him, he does have trample and indestructible, and also when another creature you control attacks, it gains trample and indestructible until the end of turn. So a little different than Domian Gate, because Domian Gate just makes him clear for combat damage. Yeah, but gosh, 8 mana. But I mean, if you can get it down, boy, it's fun times. Kogla, I don't have really a lot of enchantment/artifact removal, if any. So that's just Kogla, right? If I can get Kogla swinging, we do get the effect of destroying target artifact or enchantment, defending player controls. This one's a cheap card, but it's cool. I mean, whenever it attacks, put a +1 counter on each attacking creature. So, couple turns, he can really help his buddies out. Beast Whisperer. He doesn't meet the power toughness, but still, great card. Beast Whisperer, card draw. Siege Behemoth. This is one of those cards that stinks when somebody plays it against you, because basically, if someone has Siege Behemoth and attacks, you can have creatures that attack with it, as well as I think it's as well as siege. Let's see, as long as it is attacking for each creature you control, you may have that creature. So yeah, it's each creature you control, including it. It assigns its damage as though it weren't blocked. So this is going to be, it doesn't matter if you've got blockers. It's just you decide it goes through directly to the player. Crazy, but it's 7 mana, so maybe not so crazy. I mean, if you can get that out, you earned it. This one's cool because Intimidate basically is the creature can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or creatures that share a color with it. So this will hopefully eliminate some blockers, especially if I've got, other players who don't have any green creatures. I'm going to swing at them without reprisal. Nyx Bloom Ancient is great if you can afford to get him out on the field. Right, 7 is nothing to sneeze at, but he does have Trample. And then, of course, really the main reason is to produce 3 times as much mana for your permanents. We don't have mana dorks in here, so it'd really just be our lands. Avenger Zendikar, because he's just awesome. Right, makes all those tokens. Hopefully we get some landfall triggers. Timur Sabertooth is cool because it does have the 4 qualification for triggering our commander, but also it's good protection because you can pay 2 and make another creature indestructible, or no, I'm sorry, you can bounce a creature to your hand and give this indestructible, right? So if you've got a board wipe coming up, or a board wipe, somebody plays it, if you've got 2 open mana, you can at least protect 2 things. Return 1 to hand, cast soon after, and then this gets indestructible. And Rampaging Ballast, crazy card. If you can get some landfall triggers, you get 4/4 beasts with each landfall. And it's a 6/6. This is one of my favorite new cards from Kaldheim, right? Such a good card. Can't be countered, it's indestructible, so what? It's a 1/1. He's great, because anytime it attacks each combat, anytime a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Well, hopefully we're going to have Trample, so hopefully we're going to be drawing a lot of cards. This is different than a card we'll look at soon that only gets you, no matter how many players you damage, it only gets you 1 card draw. Kodama. I've never used Kodama in-game, so I know the day is going to come where I use Kodama and I'm going to have to make sure I do it right. But yeah. And we've got here, actually this will make it creature spells 1 less to cast too. It's indestructible 5/6. Prowling Shepherd to keep our creatures from being countered. Here this gives flash speed, and it's also that 4/4, so it triggers with GORECLAW. Giganosaurus, boy, what a green card this is. And people complained, well, it doesn't have Trample, but with GORECLAW, guess what? 10/10, Trample for 5. You're not going to do much better than that. Life gain with Verdant Sun's avatar when a creature comes in. And we've got some big creatures. You get to gain life equal to that creature's toughness. Here we have Impervious Great Worm, which is the buy a box promo from Guilds, right? That's one of them. Guilds of Ravnica or Ravnica Allegiance. I think that's Guilds of Ravnica. But anyway, Impervious Great Worm is indestructible unless you play Kevin Bacon. And then Kevin Bacon can destroy Graboids. This is one that only gets us 1 card draw, no matter how many creatures deal combat damage, right? But it's still a good card. And 2 more, 1 more, yeah, last one. Jalta, because Jalta, I mean, you got to have Jalta in a green Stompy deck. Come on. 12/12, you can cheat it out pretty easily. Hopefully just pay 2 to get this out on field. And it does have trail. Anyway, I hope you got some good ideas there. Maybe there's some cards you'd want to put into your own green deck. Like I said, I've only ran it twice, but it was really fun to play. Really easy. Didn't have to, Commander, I do like to chat with other players. So it's nice to not have to worry about math. Or things like that when in between turns, and I can just kind of know that I'm going to swing creatures, I'm going to cast creatures, maybe put some artifacts out, but the game's simple, but you also get to hang in and do some damage. So thanks for your attention. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.